Haunting of Brackenwood Manor. Chapter 1. The Inheritance. David sat in the lawyer's office, staring at the documents in disbelief. "We've inherited a mansion." The lawyer nodded, a small smile on his lips. "Brackenwood Manor. It's been in your family for generations, Mr. Miller. Your great-uncle left it to you in his will." Julia, David's wife, glanced at him, her eyes wide with excitement. "A real Victorian mansion? This could be a wonderful new start for us." Their children, Emma and Alex, were less enthusiastic. Emma, a teenager with a love for the supernatural, was intrigued but wary. Alex, her younger brother, was more interested in video games than old houses. "We should go see it," Julia said, her excitement growing. "It could be a great adventure." David nodded, still processing the news. "All right, let's do it. Let's see what Brackenwood Manor has in store for us." The next weekend, they packed up their car and drove to the countryside. As they approached the manor, its grand, decaying structure loomed over them. Tall, ivy-covered walls, broken windows, and an overgrown garden gave it an eerie charm. "It looks like something out of a horror movie," Emma whispered to Alex. "Yeah," creepy Alex replied, shivering despite the warm sun. They parked the car and approached the front door, which creaked ominously as David pushed it open. Inside, the air was musty, and dust covered every surface. The furniture, draped in white sheets, stood like ghostly sentinels. "This place is huge," David said, his voice echoing through the empty halls. "Let's explore a bit before we start unpacking." They wandered through the manor, marveling at its Victorian architecture. High ceilings, intricate woodwork, and grand fireplaces spoke of its former glory. But there was something unsettling about the place, a lingering sense of sadness and fear. In the library, Emma found an old portrait of a stern-looking man and woman. Their eyes seemed to follow her as she moved, making her shiver. "Who do you think they are?" she asked, showing the portrait to her parents. "Probably the original owners," Julia replied, brushing dust off the frame. "This place has a lot of history." As night fell, they settled into their new home, unaware of the dark presence that lurked within the walls of Brackenwood Manor. The adventure they had hoped for was about to take a terrifying turn, one that would change their lives forever. Chapter 2. Moving in. The first night at Brackenwood Manor was restless. The unfamiliar creaks and groans of the old house kept them on edge. Julia woke up several times, convinced she heard footsteps outside their bedroom door. Each time, she found nothing. The next morning, they began the daunting task of cleaning and unpacking. David and Julia focused on the main living areas, while Emma and Alex explored the upper floors. "This place is a maze," Alex said, peeking into a dusty guest room. "I bet there are secret passages and hidden rooms." Emma smiled. "Wouldn't that be cool? Maybe we'll find some old treasures." As they explored, they noticed how the portraits on the walls seemed to watch them. Emma felt their eyes following her, a constant reminder that they were never truly alone. In one of the bedrooms, Emma found an old diary tucked away in a drawer. The cover was worn, and the pages yellowed with age. Curious, she began to read. "Listen to this," she called to Alex. "It's a diary from someone who used to live here." Alex joined her, and they read the entries together. The diary belonged to Eliza Brackenwood, who wrote about the strange occurrences in the manor, voices in the night, doors that opened and closed on their own, and the feeling of being watched. "This place is haunted," Emma said, her excitement tinged with fear. "We need to tell Mom and Dad." They rushed downstairs, clutching the diary. "Mom, Dad, look what we found," Emma said, handing the diary to Julia. Julia read a few entries, her expression growing serious. "This is interesting, but let's not jump to conclusions. Old houses make noises, and our minds can play tricks on us. David nodded in agreement. We'll keep an eye out, but there's no need to panic. Let's focus on making this place our home. Despite their parents' reassurances, Emma and Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. That night, as they settled into their rooms, the strange occurrences continued. The sound of whispers echoed through the halls, and cold drafts sent shivers down their spines. Julia woke up from a nightmare, her heart racing. She had dreamt of a dark figure standing at the foot of her bed, watching her with hollow eyes. She shook her head, trying to dispel the lingering fear. It's just a dream, she told herself. Just a dream. But as the days turned into weeks, the occurrences became more frequent and harder to dismiss. The family realized that the haunting of Brackenwood Manor was more than just old house noises. It was a call for help from the spirits trapped within its walls. Chapter 3: Strange Occurrences. The weeks following their move into Brackenwood Manor were filled with a growing sense of unease. Julia and David tried to focus on restoring the house, but the strange occurrences were impossible to ignore. One evening, as Julia was preparing dinner, she heard a soft whisper behind her. She turned, expecting to see one of the children, but found herself alone. The whispers grew louder, filling the room with a chilling presence. "David, come here," she called, her voice trembling. David entered the kitchen, concern etched on his face. "What's wrong?" "Do you hear that?" Julia asked, her eyes wide with fear. David listened, but the whispers had stopped. Julia shook her head. It was so clear, like someone was standing right behind me. David put a reassuring arm around her. "This house is old, and it's bound to make strange noises. We can't let our imaginations get the better of us." But it wasn't just Julia. Emma and Alex were also experiencing strange phenomena. Emma often felt a cold presence in her room, and Alex had seen doors open and close by themselves. One night, as Emma lay in bed reading the diary she had found, she felt the temperature drop. She glanced up and saw her breath forming in the air. The cold intensified, and she heard a faint whisper. "Help us," the voice said, sending chills down her spine. Emma bolted upright, her heart pounding. "Who's there?" The only response was the sound of footsteps echoing through the hallway. Emma grabbed a flashlight and followed the sound, her fear giving way to determination. She reached the end of the hall and saw a shadowy figure disappear into the attic. She hesitated, but then opened the attic door and climbed the creaky stairs. The attic was dark and filled with shadows, but Emma's flashlight revealed the figure standing in the corner. It turned to her, its eyes hollow and filled with sorrow. "Help us," it repeated, and Emma felt a wave of sympathy and fear. The spirits were not just haunting them, they were seeking release. Emma knew they needed to do something. They couldn't continue living in fear, nor could they ignore the pleas of the trapped souls. The family had to find a way to put the spirits to rest. Chapter 4: The Portraits. The next day, Emma shared her experience with her family. "I saw a ghost," she said, her voice trembling. "It was in the attic, and it asked for our help." David looked skeptical, but Julia's face showed concern. "We can't ignore this," she said. "If the spirits are trying to communicate with us, we need to understand what they want." They decided to focus on the portraits that adorned the walls of Brackenwood Manor. Each one seemed to tell a story, and Emma believed they held clues to the manor's dark past. "Look at this one," Emma said, pointing to a portrait of a stern-looking man. "That's Samuel Brackenwood. He was the head of the family, and the one who built this place." Julia nodded. "And this one is Eliza Brackenwood, his wife. According to the diary, she experienced strange occurrences just like we are." As they examined the portraits, they noticed something unsettling. The eyes of the portrait seemed to follow them, watching their every move. "It's creepy," Alex said, shivering. "It feels like they're alive." David shook his head. "It's just a trick of the light. Let's not get carried away." But that night, the sense of being watched intensified. Julia woke up again, her nightmare even more vivid. She saw the dark figure standing at the foot of her bed, its eyes glowing with malevolence. "David, wake up," she cried, shaking him. David awoke with a start. "What is it?" "I saw it again. The figure in my dream. It's real." David sat up, rubbing his eyes. "We need to find out what's going on. This can't continue." The next morning, they decided to investigate the portraits more thoroughly. They removed one of the portraits from the wall, revealing a hidden compartment behind it. Inside, they found a bundle of old letters and documents. "These might give us some answers," David said, carefully unfolding the letters. The letters revealed a dark secret. Samuel Brackenwood had been involved in occult practices, trying to summon spirits to gain power and wealth. The rituals had gone horribly wrong, trapping the spirits of the Brackenwood family within the manor. "We need to put their spirits to rest," Julia said, her voice determined. "It's the only way to end this." They decided to perform a cleansing ritual, hoping to free the trapped souls. Emma found the instructions for the ritual in Eliza's diary, and they gathered the necessary items: candles, herbs, and a silver bell. As night fell, they gathered in the library, the heart of the manor's dark energy. They arranged the candles in a circle and began the ritual, following the instructions carefully. "Spirits of Brackenwood Manor, we seek to release you from your torment," Julia intoned, her voice steady. "Find peace and leave this place." The air grew colder, and the candles flickered. Shadows danced on the walls, and the whispers grew louder. The family held hands, their resolve unshaken. "Help us," a voice whispered. And the dark figure appeared in the center of the circle. Julia rang the silver bell, and the figure writhed in agony. "Be gone," she commanded. "Find peace and leave us be." With a final, ear-piercing scream, the figure dissolved into the air, and the room fell silent. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the candles burned steadily. "It's over," David said, his voice filled with relief. "They're gone." But as they extinguished the candles, Emma noticed something. One of the portraits, the one of Samuel Brackenwood, had changed. The stern face was now peaceful, the eyes no longer following them. "They're at peace," Emma said, tears streaming down her face. "We did it." The family embraced, feeling a sense of closure. But deep down, they knew that Brackenwood Manor would always hold its dark secrets. They had freed the spirits, but the memories would linger, a reminder of the darkness that once haunted their home. Chapter 5: The Past Revealed. With the spirits seemingly at peace, the family settled into a sense of normalcy. Yet curiosity about the dark history of Brackenwood Manor lingered, compelling them to delve deeper into the mysteries they had uncovered. Emma continued to read Eliza Brackenwood's diary, piecing together the tragic story of the family. The more she read, the more she realized how tormented Eliza had been by the supernatural occurrences in the manor. "Listen to this," Emma said one evening, gathered with her family in the library. Eliza wrote about how Samuel became obsessed with the occult after the death of their son. He believed he could bring him back. David frowned, flipping through the old letters they had found. These letters support that. Samuel sought out anyone who claimed to have knowledge of the supernatural. Julia nodded. He must have been desperate. Losing a child can drive people to extreme measures. As they pieced together the story, they learned that Samuel's experiments had not only trapped the spirits of his family, but also unleashed a dark entity that fed on their suffering. This entity had been the source of the nightmares and strange occurrences. "We need to make sure this entity is truly gone," Alex said, his voice filled with determination. "We can't risk it coming back." Emma agreed. The ritual might have freed the spirits, but we need to seal the manor's dark past for good. They decided to perform a final cleansing ritual, one that would banish any lingering dark forces and protect the manor from future hauntings. Emma found additional instructions in Eliza's diary, detailing how to seal the manor's spiritual wounds. As they prepared for the ritual, the atmosphere in the manor grew tense. The air felt heavy, and an uneasy silence settled over the house. The family gathered in the library once more, the center of the manor's dark energy. They arranged the candles in a protective circle and began the ritual, chanting the incantations with a newfound resolve. The air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to thicken, but they pressed on. "By the light of the spirits and the power of peace, we banish the darkness from this place," Julia intoned, her voice strong and unwavering. The shadows writhed, and a chilling wind swept through the room. The candles flickered, and the dark entity manifested, its form a swirling mass of shadows and malice. "You cannot banish me," it hissed, its voice echoing with malevolence. "I am eternal." David stepped forward, holding the silver bell they had used in the previous ritual. "We've freed the spirits you tormented. Your power is broken." He rang the bell, and the entity shrieked in pain. The family continued to chant, their voices growing louder and more confident. The entity thrashed and writhed, its form disintegrating in the light of their combined will. "Begone," Emma commanded, her voice filled with authority. "Return to the void from which you came." With a final, agonized scream, the entity dissolved into nothingness. The wind died down, and the candles burned steadily. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a sense of calm and peace. "It's over," Julia said, her voice trembling with relief. "We've done it." The family embraced, feeling a sense of closure and triumph. The dark entity was gone, and the manor was finally free from its malevolent influence. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, their bond stronger than ever. As they extinguished the candles and cleaned up the ritual items, Emma glanced at the portraits on the walls. The faces of the Brackenwood family looked serene, no longer haunted by the dark past. "They're at peace," Emma said softly. "And so are we." With the manor's dark history finally laid to rest, the family looked forward to a brighter future. They had overcome the haunting of Brackenwood Manor, and though the memories would remain, they were no longer prisoners of the past. Chapter 6. The Confrontation. Despite the cleansing rituals, the family couldn't shake the feeling that something still lingered in Brackenwood Manor. The atmosphere had lightened, but occasional cold drafts and faint whispers reminded them that the battle wasn't over. One evening, as the family gathered in the living room, the temperature suddenly dropped. The candles flickered, and the room plunged into darkness. "Not again," David muttered, grabbing a flashlight. The beam of the flashlight revealed a shadowy figure standing at the edge of the room, its eyes glowing with malevolence. It was the dark entity, back with a vengeance. "You thought you could banish me," it hissed. "I am bound to this place. You cannot escape me." Emma stepped forward, her fear replaced by determination. "We freed the spirits you tormented. You have no power here." The entity laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the room. "You have only delayed the inevitable. I will consume you all." Julia grabbed the silver bell and began to ring it, the sound piercing the oppressive darkness. The entity recoiled, but its presence remained strong. "We need to finish this," David said, his voice filled with resolve. "We need to destroy whatever is binding this entity to the manor." Emma remembered Eliza's diary. Eliza wrote about a talisman that Samuel used in his rituals, It might be the key to breaking the entity's hold. They split up to search the manor, the cold and darkness pressing in on them. Emma and Alex headed to the attic, where they had found the diary, while David and Julia searched the basement. The attic was filled with shadows, and the cold was almost unbearable. Emma's flashlight revealed an old chest, its surface covered in dust. She opened it, revealing a collection of ritual items and a small, ornate talisman. "This must be it," she said, holding up the talisman. Alex nodded. "We need to take it to the library and destroy it." As they made their way downstairs, the shadows seemed to close in around them, the entity's presence growing stronger. They reached the library and found David and Julia already there, their faces filled with determination. "We found it," Emma said, placing the talisman on the table. David held the silver bell, ready to ring it if the entity attacked. "Let's finish this." They arranged the candles in a circle and began the final ritual. The air grew colder, and the entity appeared, its form more defined and menacing. "You cannot destroy me," it growled. "I am eternal." Julia stepped forward, holding the talisman. "We will end this. You have no power here." She began to chant the incantation from Eliza's diary, the words resonating with power. The entity shrieked, its form flickering as the talisman glowed with an eerie light. David rang the silver bell, the sound piercing the darkness. The entity thrashed and writhed, its form disintegrating as the ritual continued. "By the power of light and peace, we banish you from this place," Julia intoned, her voice unwavering. The talisman shattered, and the entity let out a final, agonized scream. Its form dissolved into nothingness, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted, the room filled with a warm, soothing light. "It's over," Emma said, tears streaming down her face. "We did it." The family embraced. The weight of the dark past finally lifted. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, their bond stronger than ever. As they cleaned up the ritual items, the sense of peace in the manor was palpable. The shadows were gone, and the whispers had ceased. The spirits of the Brackenwood family were at rest, and the dark entity was no more. "We can finally move forward," David said, his voice filled with relief. "The past is behind us." The family looked forward to a brighter future, their bond stronger for having faced the darkness together. Brackenwood Manor was no longer a place of fear, but a home filled with love and hope. Chapter 7. The Aftermath. The days following the final confrontation were filled with a sense of peace and renewal. Brackenwood Manor, once a place of fear and darkness, now felt warm and inviting. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted, replaced by a tranquil calm. David and Julia worked tirelessly to restore the manor, breathing new life into the old house. Emma and Alex resumed their normal routines, their fear replaced by a sense of triumph. One afternoon, as they were cleaning out the attic, Emma found a small, dusty box. Inside were photographs and letters from the Brackenwood family, documenting their happier times before the darkness took hold. "Look at this," she said, showing the box to her family. "They were just like us. They loved this place." Julia smiled, her eyes misting with tears. "They were a family, just like us. They deserved peace." David nodded, placing the photographs back in the box. "We've given them that peace. We've set things right." As they continued to restore the manor, they discovered more hidden treasures, old books, antique furniture, and beautiful artwork. Each discovery was a reminder of the manor's rich history and the lives that had been touched by its walls. One evening, as the family gathered in the living room, the atmosphere was light and joyful. They laughed and shared stories, the darkness of the past a distant memory. "We've come a long way," David said, raising his glass, "to new beginnings and brighter days." "To Brackenwood Manor," Julia added, her smile radiant. "To family," Emma, and Alex chimed in, their voices filled with happiness. As they toasted to their future, the manor seemed to glow with a newfound warmth. The shadows were gone, the whispers silenced. The spirits of the Brackenwood family were at peace, and the dark entity had been banished. But as the night wore on, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. She glanced at the portraits on the walls, their faces serene and peaceful. Yet there was a lingering sense of watchfulness, as if the spirits were still present, guarding their home. It's probably just my imagination, she thought, smiling to herself. We've done all we can. The past is behind us. With a contented sigh, she joined her family, feeling a deep sense of belonging and love. They had faced the darkness together and emerged stronger for it. Brackenwood Manor was no longer a place of fear, but a home filled with warmth and hope. As the family settled in for the night, the manor stood tall and proud, a beacon of resilience and renewal. The shadows of the past had been banished, but the memories would remain, a testament to the strength of love and family. In the quiet of the night, a soft whisper echoed through the halls, a gentle reminder of the spirits who had once called Brackenwood Manor home. They were at peace, their presence a comforting guardian over the family that had saved them. And so, life went on. The Miller family embraced their new beginning, their bond stronger than ever. Brackenwood Manor, once a place of darkness and despair, now stood as a symbol of hope and renewal, a reminder that even in the darkest times, light and love could prevail.